All right, so I'd like to welcome you to this video on impedance. My name is Dr. Clyde Ledsum, and I'd like to say if you see or you find anything helpful or useful in this video, please do go ahead and share and like the video. Okay, so moving forward, let's talk about impedance, like I mentioned. And before we talk about impedance, I'd like to say that, at least from my discussion here, the idea, or at least the belief is that you have had some exposure to AC circuits already and that you know what reactance is. Okay. Now, having said that, let's go ahead and talk about the impedance. So let's say, for instance, we have these three circuits here that are on the screen. One circuit that is what we call purely resistive, and all these are AC circuits, by the way. One circuit that is purely resistive, one circuit that is purely capacitive, and one circuit that is purely inductive. If we were to look at the voltage and the current through each one of these circuits, voltage and current through each one of these circuits, what we would end up finding is something that sort of looks like this. Okay, of course, not exactly because I didn't have any values or anything for those voltage sources or capacitor, or pardon me, or the passive components there. But they would look something like this. Okay, where, for instance, if we're looking at the resistive circuit, we'd notice that, and by the way, I should mention here, the voltage is in red and currents are the other color. So over here, the other color here is blue. Okay. And so when we look at this, for instance, where this is a purely resistive circuit matching up to this here, right? The currents and voltages work out as follows, where we have clearly some sort of a difference here between the amplitudes, which is between the levels for the voltage and current. Okay. Over here for the capacitive circuit, we have differences again in the amplitudes of the voltage and the current, but we also have something else that's happening here, and it's this kind of shift. Notice from over here, the two of them are kind of lockstep together, with the exception, of course, of the amplitude. But over here, it looks like the current has been shifted to the left here. Okay. And when we look at the inductive circuit here, purely inductive circuit, okay, which again matches up, oops, wrong direction, matches up with this right here. It looks like, again, the current has been shifted. This time it looks like it shifted to the right, okay? So based on our observations, we can say that frequency-wise, look at frequency remains the same. However, when it comes to the voltages, pardon me, the amplitudes and a shift in phase, it looked like that stuff shifted based off of what type of a circuit or what type of a passive component was in that circuit. Okay. That's what that means. Again, we kind of look at those and we say, it looks like the amplitude and phase shifted for those circuits. So what this kind of tells us, okay, is that when it comes to looking at impedances, okay, when it comes to looking at impedances, we could use that polar form for looking at impedances, okay, and that kind of be perfect in terms of trying to do our analysis with our impedance analysis with, okay. And so again, when it comes to the polar, when it comes to these AC circuits here, these purely capacitive, or even AC circuits in general, um, and we're doing impedance analysis, we can kind of put it in polar form. It kind of helps us out tremendously. Okay. So having said that, okay, let's go back to now the resistive circuit. So we have our resistive circuit here, and we have our voltage and current versus the time. Time is on the x-axis here, and the amplitude of those are on the y-axis. And of course, we have the different colors to represent the voltage and current. So if we, let's say, were to look at the voltage and current and use Ohm's law here, where it's V divided by Z, Z being our impedance, we end up getting our current. Okay, we end up getting our current. And so looking at that, what we can tell here from, again, the graphs here is that only the amplitude and well, in this case, only the amplitude was affected. And if we were to, let's say, go ahead and plot that information on a complex plane, as you can see here, only the amplitude is affected. When it comes to, let's say, any sort of a phase shift, there's no phase shift, okay? So now having said that, if we start with the assumption that V of t is equal to V peak times sine omega t plus zero, okay, then we can change the voltage into a polar form of Vp with an angle of zero. And I guess I should say here, because the current didn't shift at all in this complex plane, that means then the resistance in the circuit has no kind of effect on the shift or any shift, right? And so therefore, then when we look at the rectangular form of for the impedance, we have resistance, okay, plus J, which is our imaginary term here. And again, there's no kind of a or no kind of a turn here um, related to the current versus the voltage. And so therefore, then we can't have any sort of a Y component. And so the rectangular form of the impedance here ends up being equal to zero, the Y component or the imaginary component. If we take the magnitude of, the impedance, we end up with the magnitude for the impedance ends up being equal to R. We take the angle, we end up with this here inverse tangent of 0 over R, which gives us then our polar form of Z, which is equal to R with an angle of 0. And if we do our calculations here to figure out where and what the current would be, we'd end up with V peak divided by R, um, or should I say V peak with an angle of 0 divided by R with an angle of 0, which then gives us, if we remember how to do our math, when it comes to polar form, we end up with a division of these two, V peak divided by R, with an angle of 0 minus 0. And so therefore, then our current will be equal to this, which is V peak divided by that, sine omega t, which kind of makes sense in that the amplitude has to be smaller for the current, which is what it's showing up here. And the phase doesn't change, okay? Phase doesn't change. So we had no change between the currents and the voltages. And so that's kind of what we get there, okay? So this sort of makes sense. Now, when we move now to the capacitive circuit, remember again, this is our capacitive type circuit here. And you'll notice I wrote this ICE here, and this will be explained a little bit later. Just wanted to point that out. Again, we have a phase shift this time. So if we have a phase shift this time, then what we expect is that we will have a Y component to our rectangular form of the impedance here, because something, right? Something caused this current now to be ahead of, it caused the current to be ahead of the voltage. And so if you remember again, when you're dealing with the complex plane here in these vectors, these are going to be, as we move along in time, these are going to be spinning, okay, at the same rate, okay, in a counterclockwise direction, just as my arrow is moving here, to represent the changes in as time moves forward, okay? So again, the only thing that could have caused this here to start being the current, okay, to start here on the y plane, or pardon me, the y axis here, or the imaginary axis, is that something with the capacitor caused that, and so therefore then that had to be related to a y component. So having said that, again, same thing, V divided by Z is equal to I. We go to polar form, which gives us this as our assumption, kind of fast tracking it here for the voltage. For the impedance, again, there's no resistor in here. There's no quote unquote real component, okay? but there is a component that's contributing to the imaginary portion here in order to make the current lead, in this case, the voltage. Okay. And so if we, since this is our Z total, looking back into our circuit from the point of view of this voltage source, is looking back, the Z total is equal to 1 over j omega c. If I multiply both the numerator and denominator by j, I end up with negative j over 1 omega c. Okay, where of course we remember that 1 over omega c is our reactance. Okay, if I take the magnitude of that, that is the total, or ZC in this case, since they're the same, I end up with X of C, which again is our reactance. Take theta, or try to find an angle. I take the y component divided by the y component being the imaginary component divided by the real component, which is the x component here. Take an inverse tangent of that, okay? And that ends up giving us negative 90, okay? And so that's our theta here, negative 90, okay? And x of c is actually from here. And so when I take this Ohm's law equation right here and I replace the v with this, because that's what our starting assumption was, and our x of c with this right here, which came from, again, this the magnitude and phase here, I end up with this, with Vp x of c divided by x of c with the angle of 0 minus negative 90, which ends up being plus 90, and hence indicates why that y, pardon me, the I moved ahead, if you will, by 90 degrees. Okay, moved ahead by 90 degrees. Okay, and so again, this is explaining again, or showing, I guess you can say, that phase change in the current versus the voltage, which had no change right here, and shows the same thing here. Okay. Now, let's say we have a purely inductive circuit, and you'll notice I wrote ELI up here. And again, I'll explain that a little bit later. ELI, so this is a purely inductive circuit, meaning that there's an inductor, there's a source, but there's no other components in here like resistors or capacitors. And if we were to take a look at the voltage and the currents at the same time, we might see something that kind of looks like this, as I mentioned before, where this line right here that I'm tracing is our current, and this right here is our voltage. And again, you notice a shift. And so if there's a shift there, that means we have to have a Y component when it comes to our impedances, that cause in this case, the current to be fall behind or lagging behind of the voltage, which is indicated here on our complex plane. Okay, where this is the voltage vector, this is the current vector. Okay, this is the current vector. And again, we're spinning counterclockwise. So that means if we're spinning both at the same rate, which we are, this voltage will always be ahead, which is what we kind of see up here, right? This only crosses the zero line. This crosses the zero line here, and then this crosses it much later in time. Okay. So now, having said that, we can kind of go back over here now and say, okay, we're using Ohm's law again. We're assuming that V is equal to Vp angle 0. Again, the impedance, this component here is what caused that shift to the current. Okay, that's what caused a shift to current. Because in order for us to have the shift in current, we already have an established V that we're accepting. This could be the only thing, Z, that caused that. And it has to have some sort of a Y component here. Okay, there's no resistors in the circuit, so this here, in terms of our total impedance, is equal to 0. And so therefore then, Z of L is equal to j omega L, which is equal to j x of L being our reactance, which you've learned before, and again, x of L up here. Okay, taking the magnitude of the ZL here, that ends up giving us XL. Taking the, finding the angle, because we're turning this into polar form, okay, um, this ends up being equal to, again, the imaginary term goes on top, which is the y, the real term goes on the bottom, which is the x. And so we end up here with 90 degrees, okay? And so this ends up being then when we try to find the current, it's at V of P divided by X of L, angle of 0 up here, angle of 90 down here, okay? And then when we perform our division of the two, we end up with V of P divided by XL with an angle of, in this case, minus 90, okay, minus 90, which kind of indicates here that the current is, again, it fell behind. Okay, the current fell behind. Okay, and again, remember ELI. Okay, and so now I'm going to explain that ELI stuff. Okay, so when you're dealing with impedances, okay, there's this mnemonic. When you're dealing with impedances and you have circuits that have capacitors and inductors in them, if the circuit is predominantly inductive, okay, predominantly inductive or totally inductive, okay, what will happen is when it comes to your electromotive force, or we call the voltage, okay, um, that is going to lead the current, okay, which is what we kind of saw back here. The electromotive force, which is the voltage, led the current. So as this is spinning around, at no point will this arrow get ahead of the voltage arrow here, as long as this is highly inductive. Okay, and so this over here for the current, pardon me, for capacitive circuit, the current leads for capacitive circuit, or mostly capacitive circuit, okay, the electromotive force again, which is a voltage. And so to kind of help students remember this, we kind of use ELI the ICE man, which is ELI the ICE man, in order to help them at least remember which one leads and which one lags when it comes to the voltages and currents. Okay. And again, all of that is happening because the impedances within the circuit, whether it be capacitor, resistor, inductor, combination of them, or whatever, okay, is causing the voltage and current to become out of sync. All right. All right. So that's our explanation here of impedance. Again, if you found this video helpful, useful, please do share and like. Again, this is Dr. Clyde Letson. I thank you for taking a look at this video.